Hello, this is Pastor George Namek from Narrowway Baptist Church in Parkland County, Alberta. I would like to make just a brief presentation on the phenomenon of COVID. We have now been in the so-called pandemic for 12 months, and we have the benefit of actually reviewing data supplied by government of Alberta to actually evaluate how serious the problem is, and if some of the restrictions that we have been dealing with, including those of shutting down churches and entering churches by police force and arresting pastor and so on, are really justified, and or rather, if they actually represent some strange desire of certain people in power to gain more power, like if it was as if it was not already big enough. Alright, so this first chart, everybody can make their own conclusion, and by the way, all this data, all these charts are based on government official data. Anybody can verify what I'm saying and maybe make their own conclusions. I am linking or providing links to the data that I use for this presentation in the description below. Alright, so straight to it. We have here first chart, which is Alberta death rate. That essentially is a number of people that die at any given year compared to the overall population of the province. So we can see that for a long time we've been hovering at about 0.88%. That means in these years Alberta lost roughly 0.58% of its population to death. And of course it gained a certain amount of people to balance the losses by birth and of course immigration. Well, it's interesting that this period here is unique. We are relatively stable at 0.58%. That's from 1992 to let's say 2008, 10, something like that. But then this period is a little bit different. It seems like we're in a different trend, and that is a rising death rate. In other words, there seems to be a lot more people as a fraction of the society that are dying. This last year is another rise from 0.60% to 0.615 or something like that. And somebody may say, well, that's COVID. All right, I wouldn't make the conclusion just so fast. There's other factors, including the fact that a lot of people were leaving province, and so the population growth in Alberta actually sort of flattened a little bit. It's still growing, but it's not growing as fast as in previous years. And that year you will see in the further charts happen that switch happened somewhere here. So I think this shouldn't be quickly attributed to COVID. There's other factors that come to play. We'll try to see COVID in a better chart, whether COVID actually is some sort of a crisis. This chart shows a population of Alberta, and it will reveal the problem. It will reveal the problem of population growth as the contributor to that spike in death rate. So I want you to see here on this chart we have the population growth, which is the blue section below, and you can see that it's slightly exponentially growing up. That's how it's been going. But now that I put there the trend, maybe you didn't notice it right away, you can see that something happened here, because if this long-term trend right here continued, we would be, I don't know, at about 5 million people now, but we are only 4.4. Why is that? What happened? The year is roughly 2014-2015. Well, that's the year where the oil market in Alberta was slashed down for various reasons, and that obviously contributed to a huge. There was a huge impact on the province. A lot of people lost jobs. This is also a year where suicide spiked. By the way, this is, I think, the record, the number of suicides in Alberta. What happened, a lot of people left province, so we have this gap. Not because people died, but because they left the province. When it comes to the death, that's the chart down here below. And I want you to notice the white lines here, they represent actual number of deaths per year. This is not some sort of statistics, this is statistics, but this is not some kind of derivative of some number, some sort of estimate. No, this is real number, again, from government sources. So the yellow dotted line in between those white lines, they represent a trend line, just so that we can see any kind of abnormality and kind of assess if there's some explanation for them. So I want you to notice that there are certain years where we are really above the trend line, like here, and maybe let's just say here. Okay, there is years where we are above, but maybe not as severely above the trend line. Right here, 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 and here, and that's this year. Now again, some people will say, well, this year is COVID. I wouldn't judge so fast, and we'll see later. It's just maybe it's just normal deviation from a normal. What is also interesting, of course, that there are some really cool years where actually death rates dropped significantly compared to the overall trend. Okay, that's right here. I think it would be interesting to actually look into it. Why was that? But anyway, keep that in mind. I think this is an important piece of information. These are deaths in Alberta by cause. So majority of the deaths we really don't know. Well, we do know, but this chart doesn't really deal with it, and that's basically this gray section down here below. That's just all other deaths. But I just wanted to highlight certain specific types of deaths. So causes of deaths. So what we have here is primarily the number one killer in Alberta is cancer. This is cancer, and this is the heart, number one. So heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases. This orange section, those are accidents. So that's road accidents. Somebody falls from the roof, somebody drowns, and so on. This section, the white section, is suicides. And the little black line that's below, those are homicides. And of course, this is everything else. All right, to put some numbers to it, homicides, we're looking at about 60 per year. Suicides, about 10 times more, so about 600. Accidents, about 1,000. Heart disease is about 5,000 people die on that. Cancer, 7,000. All right, so just keep that in mind. You can see that this essentially almost represents about half of the deaths in the province, cancer and heart diseases. Okay, let me add to it something very important, just so that we are complete. I think there's certain kind of people that deserve to be recognized, and this is another cause of death. So again, let me remind you that this is cancer, this is heart disease, this is accidents, homicides, all other. And do you wonder what the red is? Those are abortions. Just so that we are complete. And noticed this, by the way, if you remember, this was 7,000, this was 5,000. Abortions, there's about 13,000. So it's more than cardiovascular diseases and cancer combined, and represent somewhere about 30% of all deaths in the province. And if anybody is interested to know, total number for the country, Canada, is 105,000 deaths of children that were not allowed to live. In Alberta, the percentage per population of abortions is slightly actually higher than the Canadian average, which I think is pretty telling. All right, so let's move on. This is on this slide, I only have data till 2019. All right, we don't have COVID in here. You may be interested to know what is the COVID impact on this death rate. Is there some sort of a big spike? All right, has the death suddenly gone berserk? All right, because that would be pandemic. Well, this is including 2020. So again, these individual columns, they represent the number of deaths in the province, and of course it's going to go up because the population goes up. So it's not that people are dying more, it's just the population growth. And I want you to notice this, just about every year just goes up. Every year it is increasing. There was a period where it kind of flattened and went down a little bit, down up here, and then it goes up again. All right. Now, this yellow, that's the number of people that died on COVID. So we can see that this is a significant portion. That definitely is on a map, isn't it? All right. Well, let's just analyze that just a little. All right, shall we? We're going to put here a trend line. Let's just use black. And let's just say from here, it seems to be pretty much consistently rising up. Different color. Let's use blue. Okay. All right. Let's me do a better job. There you go. So this is a straight line. What you can see that this is just steadily growing. Now, if you include this past year, we are right on target in terms of expected death rate for this particular year. We can actually predict that next year more people going to die if we just extrapolate this line. Of course, we cannot extrapolate it forever, but certainly, 1 year ahead, maybe 2 years ahead, we can make pretty good and educated guess. And if we evaluate this year the number of deaths in Alberta compared to the trend, I think that it's kind of staring at everybody here now that actually there's no difference. In other words, you cannot really see COVID-19 reflected on the death rate in the province of Alberta. If you didn't know where the COVID-19 was, and you are, let's say, in 2035, and you're looking back and you're kind of trying to find out where that COVID was based on a spike of deaths, you will not find it. I think that somebody should notice this and explain to me how is that possible. Now, I already mentioned that there is not there's no cases where actually death rate goes down. Naturally, if the population goes up, this is such a big number that you can actually consistently expect that death rate will also copy the trend of the population growth. The only time, like I said, was right here where it just slightly declined. All right, but we are told that COVID-19, if it didn't happen, a lot more people would still be alive. Okay, so in other words, these people are telling us that if this yellow spot was not here, the population would actually, or the deaths would actually, excuse me, come on. They're actually told that the population, the death rate would actually go down like this, like never before. And in fact, if you check the numbers, it would represent about 7%. There's no reason why suddenly 7%, you should see a 7% drop of deaths when there's nothing happening with the population. Like it's not like the old people suddenly immigrated from the province, went somewhere else, which is why we don't see that many deaths. That would be maybe a reason why this happened, but such an exodus of Alberta by the elderly, didn't happen. So how to interpret this? Well, I don't know. I mean, anybody can contribute with their thought, but I simply think that these people that we see here, or this, don't think about them as individuals. Okay, think about it as a portion of the society. This portion of society would have died anyway. In other words, the people that died a lot of people that died on COVID, they probably would have died on something else. Now, I'm pretty sure there will be slightly different proportion or slightly different mix of people that would die because of a number of reasons. There's certainly people that wouldn't have died if it was not COVID, but other people would sort of fill the gap. And that's a little bit complicated to explain. And I want to make this video really short, so if anybody is interested, we can expand on at another time. But I want you to notice COVID-19 is not on the map, not on the map of a death rate, to say the least. Let's move on. This next slide shows the number of cases in Alberta. The green represents the recoveries, and the red down below here, that represents actual deaths from the COVID. This, I believe, may not be actually completely accurate, because I suspect there is probably a lot bigger number of people that got it, but they never reported it, or they didn't even know that it was COVID because the symptoms were so mild. So I want you to notice a few things. We actually had a peak in roughly in December, and then it just collapsed. And also notice, we don't have a population vaccinated, and yet it dropped significantly. It seems to be dropping down. So I expect by, let's say, April, we're going to end up somewhere at this level, maybe even less. Another chart. This is a number of people that got a COVID, and also how many people died. And that, this time is per age group. So down here, these are infants. This group is 1 to 4 years, 5 to 9, and then the next ones are every 10 years. So 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and so on. All the way here, we have people that are above 60 but below 70, 70 to 80 years old, and of course 80 years old and above. So that's a group that includes, of course, 90 people. There's a bunch of people, I think about 500 people in Alberta that are over 100. So that's all lumped into this group. And I don't know, do I have to say more? Do I have to say, look at this, this is 80 plus years old, and majority of people that died in the province of Alberta on COVID is in this group. That's the people that die. Another big group, but significantly lower. It almost looks like, I don't know, not quite quarter, but not quite third. So that's the people. It looks like, I don't know, about 30%. That's the people between 70 and 79 years old. Another piece of a puzzle that kind of puts this into perspective is this. If you take the number of deaths compared to the total number of people identified with COVID, you will get a recovery rate, right? And the recovery rate, you can see that more people recovered than died. So the recovery rate is about 76, 77%, even for people that are 80 years old and above, which I find extremely significant. And so it's a huge number. In other words, even if an 85-year-old gets a COVID, he's got a 77% that he's going to make it through. Which I realize it's a big risk. 25% is a big risk that I wouldn't put myself to. If somebody told me, let's go camping, but there is a 25% chance you're going to die, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. I know some people do. So it's obviously still high risk, but it's not like if you get COVID, you're certainly going to die. Now, for the people that are 70 and below 80, the recovery rate is like 93%. Huge number. And when we go down to 60 to 70 years old, it's like 98%. All right. And then for everybody below 60, the recovery rate is just about 100%. You get the COVID, there's a slight chance you might die, but it's very unlikely. And I don't think it's that much different from, let's say, pneumonia or flu or some other diseases. All right, this is just another way to look at it. These are again deaths by age groups. So you can see that the bulk of the people that die of COVID, 65%, so about 2/3, are people 80 and above. If you add to it the people in this category, that's people above 70 but below 80, then the total number would be 60, 70, 84%. 84% combined these two numbers. So only 15% people die on COVID from population 70 and below. If we add to it this number, all right, these three numbers combined, then we'll get actually 95%. So 95%. The greatest vulnerability of people to the COVID is when you are 60 and older. And of course, it doubles when you reach 70, and then it triples when you reach 80. That's really what it is. Okay, so let me just summarize. In a year, from March 1st to end of February, the number of deaths in Alberta is 1,883. This is from government data. Now, this may not be exactly end of February, maybe like February 22nd or something like that. So that number may be slightly higher, but that's roughly the number we're talking about. You'll hear from media how people are dying left and right. Well, people are dying left and right. There's about 27,000 people that die every year. And the population of Alberta is right now 4.4 million. We already dealt with the death rate. But 27,226 divided 365. That means that in Alberta, about 75 people die every day. Every day, we bury 75 people in Alberta. And yet people are saying, oh my goodness, another 10 people died in this last week for COVID. No, actually, what happened, 222 people died last week. And that's obviously average. I suspect that in the winter time, the number is a little higher. In the summer time, the number is maybe a little smaller. Now, so this may seemingly look like a high number, but again, notice it's virtually unnoticeable on the annual death rate chart. Not maybe death rate, this may not be completely accurate, but just the number of deaths per year. With regards to recovery rate, you may be interested. The overall recovery rate is whopping 98.55%. That means that 1.45% will die of people, and that's including everybody from infants to the 100-year-old. If we try to be more focused and see where the problem is, which is obviously for the elderly, then let's look at the population that is under 60 years old. And you'll see this crazy number. 99.9% will recover. That's not very far from 100%. You get a COVID and you're 40 and you're kind of fine, you will recover. And I suspect that a lot of people that did not recover in that category is because they had some preconditions. That is obviously not reflected in the chart. The data that we receive from the government does not reflect it. It just deals with gender and age. And by the way, gender has doesn't have a lot of impact on the death rate at all when it comes to COVID. Now, even if we bump it up and just look at the population below 70 years old, all right, then we are still at 99.75%. That is also extremely high. And that's the reason we shut down the economy. We shut down the churches. We shut down the schools, we shut down the gyms, the swimming pools. We even shut down parks because we don't want people to meet and breathe with each other. I don't know. This is obviously extremely sad, and there's something up. Why are we making this insane decision to hurt ourselves so bad by restricting certain basic functions of a society? All right. As a note, suicide. Some people say suicides increase. We don't care about suicide. Of course, we do, but actually, they didn't increase. The peak was in 2015, which remember is the year where we were hit by the downturn of the economy because of the situation in the oil patch. We are actually slight decrease, down about 540 in 2020, which I believe is still a serious problem. I mean, why people want to end their life, to me that's obviously a big number that you will see on a chart. And in closing, Bible says, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your request be made unto God. See, the answer to risk and threat and concerns and worries, according to the Bible, is not to be afraid. It is in some ways a curse when people are running for, they're just anxious and scared. Not only we should not be scared, because according to these clear numbers, there is no really pandemic. There's no really situation where people are dying left and right and we just lost a certain significant portion of the society. That's not happening. It's just not true. I don't know why people spin it that way. But anyway, even if it was bad, regardless of the situation, and this applies to COVID-19 just as well it does as it does to other personal situations and fear for job loss or whatsoever it is. According to the Bible, the answer to our fear is prayer and thanksgiving. Now we ought to come to God and ask Him, and maybe sometimes it includes, maybe repent. Maybe sometimes we haven't done well. We do something wrong. And at the very least, I think what we have suffered with is a lot of selfishness where people got sick, even of flu or something else, but they still go to work, they send the kids to school, and then of course the flu spreads like a fire. And that's obviously not right. It's very selfish and not right. So the same kind of precaution should be taken when it comes to COVID. If somebody has certain symptoms, they should stay home, they should be diagnosed, treated, and make sure that other people are protected. That's really the answer. Not the idea that everybody is just going to just cease from doing their daily activities and earn living and gather with, let's say, believers and so on. That is not the right answer. And notice the promise, and the peace of God, verse 7 here, and the peace of God which passeth all understanding shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. See, that's where true peace comes from. The answer is not a fear. Fear is a curse. We should not be, if we want to be called ourselves Alberta strong and free, let's please not fall for the fear and anxiety and panic. That is such a bad thing, and I'm afraid that government and certain people in power, so-called experts, terribly contributed to certain weird mindset in this province and all of the country and all of the world, really, that people are fearful. And I hope it's mostly just by sincere mishandling of the situation, but I'm afraid that in many of these cases, it is because somebody actually enjoys the fear, because fearful people are easily manipulated and controlled. And so with that, I'll just end. Everybody can make up their mind. Feel free to comment to this video, share, and I look forward to see you on the other side. By the way, if you're interested in expanded version of this presentation, the link is here. And again, I wish everybody all the best. God bless you.